This component, we're going to talk about space. We're going to talk about 2- and 3-dimensional space. But there are 4 essential things about space that we should never forget. Number 1, all things exist in space. You could even argue virtual things exist in space. I might make that argument. Space is always there. It's always around you. It cannot be applied or created by artists, but it can be manipulated by artists or designers. Number 3, it is a vehicle in which shapes and form exist in. And lastly, it is another element of our own aesthetics. There are many different ways to talk about space. First, in any kind of space, there's always positive and negative space. Positive space is the space an object uses to exist in. You could say every object takes up space. Negative space is all the other space around the object, or you could say it is the space the object is not using. Second, there is actual space. This space relates to all art and design work in the 3-dimension. Sculptures, performance artists, architects, and designers working in the physical world, dealing with actual space all the time. Third, there's implied space, the space that leads the viewer beyond the confines of the screen or the artwork. Implied space can be created for 2- and 3-dimensional works of art or design. And lastly, in the 2-dimensional realm, there is pictorial space. This is space relating to a flat surface. It contains positive and negative space. Pictorial space usually suggests a sense of space. It is illusionistic and uses common techniques to create a sense of space. These techniques are overlapping, tiering, size, and perspective. Overlapping is when objects on a flat surface overlap one another. Because of their positions, we see space created by the artist or the designer. Tiering is when a 2-dimensional surface is divided vertically into space that is close and farther away in the distance. The bottom of the composition is usually acknowledged as being close to the viewer. The middle space is farther away, and the top of the composition is considered the farthest distance away from the viewer. Folk art, primitive art, or designers that wish to pursue connections to this type of work will use this type of space in their work. Size or sizing objects in a 2-dimensional space helps to communicate about space. Larger objects will be seen closer to the viewer, while smaller objects will be seen farther away. Perspective space uses line and points when creating a sense of space on a 2D surface. Artists and designers use actual lines or imaginary directional lines to create this space. When it comes to talking about perspective, there are 4 types. Linear, 1 point, which uses the horizon line and 1 point on the horizon line where all lines in the composition converge. 2-point perspective uses the horizon line, a vertical perpendicular line, and 2 points on the horizon line. The vertical perspective lines establish edges, and the 2 points are used for convergence. Multiple point perspective uses a horizon line, vertical perpendicular lines, and multiple points placed anywhere on the horizon line. Connections are made to all the points and various planes or edges in the space are created. The last type of perspective is atmospheric. It is the relationship between space and light. Atmospheric perspective relates to the way humans see objects in the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. Size and tonality, how bright or dull an object is in your composition, is used to create this sense of space called atmospheric space. As you move through your world each day, try to remember when you are interacting with actual space and two-dimensional space. Notice the feeling. Try to notice what techniques are being used by artists, designers, architects, web and mobile designers.